재앙이 되겠다.
Well.
7K dreamer please.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be looking at Mythical Awakened Wukong's remake and his performance in Arena. So for this video, I've decided to do two parts. The first part is using the universal team concept, whereby you need 3 universal heroes on the team for Wukong's passive to take place. So in this case, I'm using Milia. And the reason why I'm using Milia is because I will prefer her counter over Yonhee's for this purpose, okay? And thankfully my Judas starts off with Fear. And people have been saying that Judas isn't very useful now because, you know, his immortality is being countered by the inability to receive buffs, and that is one thing to take note. However, you know, Judas still can tank a lot of damage, especially if you give him the right gear. And I think right now I'm giving him the Guardian Ring so he doesn't take damage for the first 3 turns, which is very important currently. Wukong goes and uses his Paralyzed, but apparently they have immunity, I believe, because of Colt. So that's okay. So just to talk about Wukong's skill set more, he not only can land Paralyzed, he is also able to do burn on his Awaken skill and stun on his effect attack. His Awaken skill also destroys armor, and also there's plenty of ignore defense on his skill set, okay? But the most important thing is his passive. So not only is he able to give, you know, the enemies the inability to receive buffs, he also decreases physical damage taken for himself and also decreases the enemy's block rate by 10% each turn, up to a maximum of 50%. So at turn 5 now, sadly he is already dead, but if he still survives, the enemy's block rate will have been reduced by 50% already. And not only that, if you unlock his exclusive item, he is able to decrease 4 target damage taken by all allies in the same row by 30%. So that's why I'm using this formation, whereby I have a 4-1 formation with him at the back to protect my backline allies. And my Sage itself is pretty tanky, so I decided to put him in front. And as you can see, Judas and Milia actually has pretty long survivability. Milia is still slightly weaker, I would say, so she's not the most optimal universal hero that you should have on a team. Some people have tried Gallidus, and in fact if you watch the live stream I did yesterday, I've also tested Gallidus. He is a hit and miss. Sometimes he uses his freeze and is super good because there's no more Phais around in the meta now, so freeze is actually very viable. However, he tends to use his bottom skill, which is the less appealing skill, which is pretty sad. So Wukong hits very hard, as you can see. That's because of his ignore defense. For that, he also reviews hiding enemies, so his overall skill set is actually very good and very well designed. I think he is actually my favorite remake compared to Dellons and Colt. The reason being because I feel that Colt and Dellons are still lacking in the defense aspect, but for Wukong, he actually has his own self-defense whereby he decreases the physical damage taken, as I mentioned. So that is why I think he is not only bulkier himself, he also hits very hard, comparable to the other two. Of course, maybe lesser because he is a universal hero, so the stats are different, but you know, still very considerable damage. Unfortunately, here my Yonhee is on Fear, so is my Milia, so both my counter units are shut down. What are the odds? And then my Wukong gets silenced. So we're going to talk about Wukong's equipment. For him, I've given him double crit. I also am taking on crit and lethal because right now I'm not using Fenrir, so crit and lethal may be a way to go. But if you want to boost his debuff cast rate significantly, then going double crit is okay. I've also given him HP, you can give him double block. I think most people are starting to use block again, and if you watch the live stream again yesterday, we saw a few players that have given their whole team block rate armor. Because right now Rudy is not being used anymore, so the block rate buff is gone, and block rate can prove to be pretty significant in terms of reducing damage taken. For his ring, I've given him the Zircon ring, which is actually the ring that is able to heal you every 3 turns. Okay, not the most optimal. I think having a Guardian Ring will be far better at this point in the game. Okay, also with a Purification. So you may see that he isn't as bulky as he should be, and that is completely on my part. But I would strongly suggest you can try using the Guardian Ring on him, or even the Willful Ring. Okay, for his jewels, survive on 1 HP, increase awakening gauge, and reflect immunity. I don't think the reflect immunity is relevant anymore as well. So that will be something to be changed out. You can in fact give him something like increase his damage output or the crit and lethal jewels to really push his damage multipliers to the maximum potential. And for his resistances, I've given him stun, resist, electrify, and also reduce damage taken from magic to make him more bulky, because he reduces physical damage taken already, so I want to balance that out. And for the second part of this video, I've actually decided to not use the universal team and to just use the magic team. So Wukong's role here becomes a full support. I mean, or rather, he has always been full support, but he hits very hard as a support hero, as a utility hero. So in that sense, in this case, right, since we are not using his passive for universal teams, we are just really using him for the reduction in 4 target damage. Luckily, the enemy has a Wukong, so we can use that as a reviewing point as well. The thing I like about Wukong so much is his awakened skill, whereby he lands the burn. And you might think that burn is just nothing much, but at this point of the meta, burn is something that many people do not have resistance against, and probably will not, because there are far more threatening CCs around, like death, as you can see. So burn is actually pretty useful, especially when you couple it with Judas, poison, and bleed. So whatever the enemy does, they will take damage from it. Okay, and that's the most threatening part. I feel Wukong and Judas, they go very well together. They cover all the different aspects in terms of residual damage. Also, he has destroyed armor on his awakened skill, which is very unfortunate because in this whole video, in the whole recording that I did not see my Wukong use his awakened skill, so that's very unfortunate. But his awakened skill can destroy armor, and that's very good for you because, for a universal team, if you plan to use him on a universal team, they're definitely not as strong in terms of damage output. So destroying the armor is very helpful for universal teams if you do intend to use them. And hopefully Netmarble can come up with more universal heroes in future so that this trio can work out. And it's very unfortunate for Judas that the immortality is being nerfed right now. However, he still has a very strong fear ability. And as you saw, I think at the start of the match, my Wukong did went first and already killed off someone. Of course, with Wukong here, this team surrounds itself based on CC casting. Okay, so I put in Freya because I wanted to use Freya's ability to reduce status effect resistance, any resistance. And then my Yonhee has Death, Sleep, Silence. My Judas has Fear. Yeah, this skill reduces status effect resist even though it came in very late. And then Wukong has Paralyze, Burn, and maybe Stun if he does use his effect for some reason. And Sage has Poison. So all these status effects coming together, I'm sure I will be able to do some form of damage on the enemy regardless, no matter how. So here he hits very hard and kills off the Milia on the enemy side. And Judas also has Bleed and Poison, apart from Fear. So yeah, that's the idea behind the team. Paralyze won't work against me because I have Freya, and also Freya increases my damage output even more because she increases crit damage by 50%. So as long as I have crits landing, my damage will be pretty high. Yeah, this is the awakened skill from Wukong. He lands the burn on me, but I wasn't able to land anything on him. Yeah, death is crazy now. Make sure you do have some death resistance on some, I wouldn't say all, some of your heroes, because I mean, if you were to give them all, you are just removing one slot of potential resistance. Because not all Yonhees will run death, even though I think more and more Yonhees will run death after this video. Yeah, but I think having a few heroes with death resistance is good enough. For my team, I think my Judas and my Yonhee has death resistance, and going with that, I don't need my Yonhee to be skilling in that case. Of course, if the enemy has death resistance, then I'm pretty much screwed, right? So that's something to think about. On the other hand, if you do run a universal team and you do use Gallidus can also provide you with 12 turns of death immunity, which is very helpful because I think right now heroes that provide this kind of 12 turn immunity are all very good because it saves you an entire slot in your traits, and you can dedicate that trait to something even better. So you get covered, you cover a lot more ground, and it's better for your team in that sense. Yeah, so right now I don't even care if my Yonhee is silenced because I know she can hit really hard with her effect attack, and she's on double speed anyway. I know previously in my video I said I preferred Yonhee on crit and lethal, but you know, seeing how she performs on speed, I'm going to stick with this for a little while more. So let me know your thoughts on Wukong. I know I didn't really talk much about him, but I really like his remake, and hopefully you have tried him and enjoy him too. He's a really good support hero for any team right now. So yeah, if you found this video helpful, do leave a like and subscribe to my channel. Stay tuned for more guys. Thank you so much and see you!